Hey, Jeff Armbruster here on tonight's live episode, Disney Solo with your kids. We'll be right back. Hey everybody, Jeff Armbruster here. Welcome to the Universe of Magic podcast. We are live tonight on YouTube, and we are talking Disney with kids, but as a solo. Just one of you parents going there. I'm joined at the table here by Alyssa. Say hi, Alyssa.
Hello, sorry, I'm managing the controls tonight.
So yeah, we're short John tonight, so you got some amateurs doing this tonight, and we're also joined by special guest Rachel McHugh, one of our agents here at Moments of Magic. Say hi, Rachel.
Hi. Thanks for having me.
Awesome.
Hey, I did it.
Thanks for joining us. So, Alyssa, tell us the gist of tonight. What are we really getting into?
Okay, so we brought Rachel on. Rachel, you have four kids? Four kids?
Four kids.
Four kids. Okay. And I only have one kid, and I did solo with him, and it was a lot, and a lot of tips, tricks, things that I just didn't know until doing it myself. And so I know you've done it a couple times as well. And so we're just this is going to be a very hopefully informative episode for anyone who's joining us, because I think whether you're a single parent or maybe you're a grandparent and want to take your grandkids, or you're like us and you have kids, but it's just you just taking them. So we're going to kind of like go through all of that stuff, and hopefully it applies to someone who maybe could use this information, because I know I probably could have used an episode like this a year ago. So
and everybody's done it. If you're a Disney fanatic, there's times when the other spouse doesn't want to go and you do, and you're taking the kids. I mean, for me, it was always, my son was in the Disney college soccer program down there. The ESPN Sports Complex. My wife couldn't go. He had tournaments down there, so I would take, my son and daughter down there solo. It's definitely a different dynamic, isn't it?
Yes. It's different. It's a lot. It's nonstop, but it's also fun. And I've actually done it where I split up our kids based on ride preferences. And done like a big thrill rides trip with two of the kids, and then the other two, very low thrill, easygoing rides. So,
and one of the perks is you as that, solo parent, you as the king of the castle get to dictate the day. You don't have the other spouse to argue with or where you want to go. So that's kind of a bonus, I guess.
Yeah. I let my kids pick everything when we went, pretty much. Let them kind of control what they wanted to do. And they were very, very different trips.
Say with four kids, they all agreed?
No, so I split them up. I did.
Okay.
So I did 2 and 2, but the one was a baby. Frances was 11 months when I took her and one of my twin boys last summer. So she didn't really have much of a voice. So Paul really ran the show. And then this year, Amelia and John, they agreed on like everything, which was amazing.
Wow.
So
that's impressive.
Yeah.
Melissa, you got the littlest one. That had to have been, interesting.
So yeah, I've taken him. He was about 17, 18 months the first time. And then again, just took him again a couple weeks ago. He's 2.5 now. So difficult in their own ways, also awesome in their own ways both times. So and I tried Rachel and I think you and I were talking about like how I was taking the stroller and the car seat and all this stuff, and I got a method down. Like there was a method to my madness, but there was a lot of trial and error to figuring that out. So so I think my hope, again, this episode we're gonna go through all of that stuff. But Rachel, you hit on what I thought about first, is how do you manage the age gaps, the different preferences, and if you're a one-woman show in that, like it was great that your older kids did agree, but like what if they didn't, or if there was one was having a tantrum, or like it's just you. So do you have any input on that?
Yeah, so I mean, luckily, like I said, for the most part, they kind of all agreed. But I made it very clear before we went, if there was something that um Amelia wanted to do and John didn't, like it kind of had to be a group decision. And it was like with John, well, what if you want to do something tomorrow and Amelia doesn't want to do it? Do you want to just, her say, no, I'm not going to do it, or do it so that you can enjoy it too? So they were really good about that. And I did have my cousins did meet us one day. So my daughter was thrilled because all she's wanted to do was Rock and Roller Coaster. And John was not tall enough for Rock and Roller Coaster. So I did have the benefit there to leave John with my cousin for the one time. But, it was very like, we don't have an option. You stick together, so we have to agree on what we do.
I didn't think about that. Height differences. I mentioned age differences, but height too. That is so hard. So
yeah. So for the most part, the only two rides that he could not do were Tron and Rock and Roller Coaster.
Okay.
But everything else we did. And there were things that they didn't really agree on. Amelia does not like Haunted Mansion. John loves it. So Amelia just kind of cried in my shoulder for most of the ride because she didn't want to be on it, but she did it, for her brother. So that was so nice. But yeah, I feel like it's more of a height thing than an age, because that's more of a limitation, I think, than, even age differences.
And how old are your kids?
Amelia is 7.
Okay.
John and Paul, I have identical twin boys. They're 5. And then Frances is 2. She's the baby. So when I took her and Paul last year, she was almost 1 and he was 4. But Paul doesn't like, when he rides Dumbo, he rides down. He doesn't even like to go up. So yeah. So I did a low thrill ride trip with them first. Because one, I was still nursing Frances at the time, but also I was like, this gives John another year to catch up in height to Amelia to be able to do more of the thrill rides.
That makes sense. That was a good idea. That was good strategic planning on your part.
Yes, very strategic.
That's awesome. Something you mentioned, I don't know if you ever tried this because I haven't had a need to just yet. I know technically they say a 7-year-old can ride by themselves, but obviously a 7-year-old is not going to wait in the queue by themselves. Like, did you ever experience that?
So to wait in the queue by themselves, they have to be 13.
13. Okay, but couldn't she technically have her own car or something like on a certain ride? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Got it. So did you ever do that?
Yeah, Guardians. She rode in front of us for Guardians.
Okay.
I kept checking. I was like, oh my God, is she still there? Because I was really nervous about that one. Yeah, Guardians, she was in front of us. Seven Dwarfs, she was in front of us.
Wow.
Any of them that were just 2-seater, she sat in front of us.
Cool.
So, and they ask, how old are your kids? 7 and 5. They said, okay, the 7-year-old can ride in front.
Cool. Okay. That's good to, like, again, I haven't had to experience that yet. So that's good to know, because I think that's a tip. I will see posts on Facebook groups where like a single mom will be saying, I have these 2 kids. What do I do? So do you know what, like, let's say it was both your twins or something with you, like instead, like what would they do with 2 5-year-olds?
So I think it depends on who you get, honestly. Because even before Amelia turned 7, like we went on Slinky Dog Dash once, me, Amelia, and John, and they did not ask how old she was. So she just sat in front of us. And then we went on a second time and they said, how old is she? And I said, oh, she's 5, because I didn't know the rule at that point. And they were like, I'm sorry, she can't wait. You can come back through the fast pass line. She has to wait outside and you can come back on with her again after.
What do you do if it's just you?
I guess you can't ride. I don't know. I think maybe they'll take pity, or the rule of them needing to be 7 and
interesting, and just like plan around that.
Yeah.
I don't know, Jeff, did you ever experience that with your kids when they were younger?
Probably. I don't really remember it too much. They're having a 23-year-old and a 20 now. I'm at the point where they're probably going to be taking me soon to Disney, but that's what's good about this topic is we're teaching everybody what some of the rules are, because there are a lot of things that people probably don't know when you're taking small kids like Rachel's got and on and off the rides.
Yeah. I feel like I read somewhere, like, for example, like in Slinky Dog, they have like the separate parts of Slinky Dog that are essentially 4, right? 2 and 2. I read somewhere that as long as you're in that same 4, like, then you'd be okay. So, but again, that would mean you can't have more than 3 kids by yourself.
Right.
Like, unless they're older. And again,
Right.
And those are all the little nuances that we don't know about, that Disney, all the rules and the things that they have to abide by, so.
And I know it's like a safety issue. Like, I think I saw like something like that, Slinky Dog, if they had to evacuate, it's like so that the parent is right there, like with them. So, which makes sense. It does. Like, it's like, is that going to happen often? No, but just in case, they have to have those plans in place.
They do. Yeah. They do. Which is what's so valuable about us travel agents, right? We can help parents and the families plan that. Which brings me to, we are sponsored by who, Alyssa?
Hold on, I don't have the banner ready. you threw that at me, and I was like, oh, wait, I'm not ready. Hold on. Here we go.
There we go. We're sponsored by Moments of Magic Travel. Get your free obligation quote at momentsofmagictravel.com.
Woo. I have no idea if that was the correct banner.
It looks right. It
looks good.
Oh, goodness. Okay. Okay, here was another thought. Because I have an opinion about this, but I have not yet experienced it myself. Which do you think, as a solo parent, guardian, whatever, would be easiest? Walt Disney World, Disneyland, or Disney Cruise Line?
Oh.
If your kids are all 3 and over, Disney Cruise Line.
Yeah.
Okay. What makes you say that, Rachel?
Because they can go to the kids club at 3. And, they do have 2 on Disney Cruise Line. If they're under 3, they the service that you can pay for where you can check them in. So I feel like that I have not taken my kids on a cruise yet. We have something booked for next October.
Woo!
Halloween on the high seas. But, I feel like that would be, to me, it would give parents a little bit more freedom to have a little bit of a break. Like, I feel like that's kind of the hardest part for me when I travel solo with the kids anywhere is it's always me as the parent and no help.
I would agree with Rachel 1,000%. I think the cruise line is going to be a little bit more relaxed, easier environment. I mean, you're not obviously going to go to the pool and just drop your kids off the pool and leave. You still need to be with them, but there's less stress about worrying about a line that, they can't stand in themselves or a ride in general. I mean, she hit it on the head. They got the kids clubs to go play in. I think a cruise would be easier as a solo than the parks, but I don't think the parks are, has to be all that difficult. I think parents who are single parents, and there's a lot of single parents out there, there's tons of them out there. My sister is one of them. I think there's a way to do Disney as a single parent and enjoy it just as much as the families who have the dual parents. There's so many different ways to enjoy Disney, whether you're power riding it or whether you're enjoying some of the shows. You can do it. I think it can be done in both fashions.
I always think too, like especially with just kids in general, I say to try to not plan too much, which I think cruising is good for that. Like, you can, again, just kind of do what you feel like in the moment, except for dinners. I always like at the parks, I say if you want to sit down meal, I prefer breakfast or lunch because then you just have the flexibility of the rest of the day. But on the cruise ships, like, you're locked in on a time, like, and you don't really have a choice per se on that. And then some of the families that get assigned those late times and have little ones, that can be hard if they don't get that early.
Yeah, the early dining you're talking about.
Yeah,
I would agree with that. Rachel, your trip next October, did you guys pick early dining?
We did early dining. So hopefully, that works. But it's nice too, since it's 24/7 room service. So I'm like, if we don't make the dinner, and we're doing a longer cruise, I think it's 5 nights or 6 nights. So it's a little bit longer of a cruise. So I was like, if we don't make every night for dinner and we just do room service,
Point.
because I agree, flexibility with kids, you never know who's having a meltdown, who's tired, who, isn't hungry yet because they were eating Disney popcorn all day.
Sounds about right.
But
So I do think I want to do this in the next couple years, though, is I do want to take a Disneyland trip with my son and see. I just feel like the convenience of park hopping and walking distance to any of their resorts does just make it easier. So like you can have all the greatness of like the theme parks, but just more convenience with little ones.
Mhm.
Yeah, you never have to get on a form of transportation at Disneyland. I mean,
You
can
don't.
walk anywhere.
Yeah.
So for sure.
Yeah.
Now, Alyssa, when you go with Trip, do you park hop usually with him, or do you just pick one park and kind of stay?
In the past, one park and stay. So this upcoming, when we go end of this October, we are park hopping with intention to rope drop so that he is tired enough for a nap midday, go back to the resort, and then hop to a different park after the nap.
That's the way you do it. And
Yeah.
I think that's how a lot of families with younger kids do it. Whenever I'm talking to my families, that we're planning a trip here for Moments of Magic, they always ask me, is park hopping worth it with little kids? And I think that's a loaded question. It depends on you, the agent, and how you feel. But for me, it never really worked when my kids were young. You always got strollers in tow. You always got bags in tow. You're losing more significant time moving from one place to the other with little ones. Park hopping, I think, is much easier when the strollers and the bags are dropped, and they can get from place to place. And obviously, park hopping is a little bit different right now with the 2 p.m. or technically 1:47. If you want a pro tip, 1:47.
Just pro tip of the day.
Yeah, pro tip of the day. It's a little bit different right now, but I'm hoping that restriction is dropped here, maybe in January with everything else. We'll see what they do.
Please.
Right?
Yeah.
No, but I also thinking of that though with the transportation also to the parks, and except for Magic Kingdom, if I have a car, I will drive because like you said, packing up the stroller, then getting the kid on, getting on the bus, like it's very overwhelming. And so we drive to all the other parks. Magic Kingdom, we will take the bus because the convenience of not having to take the monorail and then the tram back to the car, which again, you have to anyway pack up the stroller to get on the tram. Like it's just easier to get on the bus and go directly back to your resort. So, and again, doing it by yourself is so hard. So I would try like anything to either stay at a monorail resort or Wilderness Lodge, even if I plan to go to Magic Kingdom, because then it's easy, or somehow like try to make it as convenient as possible, like pack the least amount of things with still necessities.
Yeah, we stayed I did Bay Lake Tower last year at the Contemporary, and this year at the Grand Floridian. So that made it very convenient because we could walk or take the monorail. And like you mentioned, even Wilderness Lodge, it's nice because that's one of the boats you don't have to fold your stroller up for, which is nice.
Yeah, so that's
I love Wilderness Lodge. Absolutely love that resort.
That's our goal as a family eventually.
Oh,
so I'm putting in my thing, and if you book your travel with us, you can help me make that a reality. So, okay, well, that's my plug-in. Okay. Something else I wanted to think of is packing. So especially again, being solo, not having the ability to tell your significant other, whoever you're traveling with, hey, can you go run to so-and-so while the kid is napping or while at nighttime or something like that? Like you have to be prepared, I feel like. Is there anything not your norm that either you guys could think of that would be important to take with you?
Consolidation.
How so?
So we, like when I travel with them, I try to minimize as best I can how many outfits I'm taking. I feel like a lot of times I'll overpack when I have my husband and extra hands, but when it's just me, I try to really just narrow it down to one outfit a day and that's it. And then even for some of the travel days that we have or resort days, taking advantage of doing a load of wash. So it's, I can reuse their travel outfit. And then I use the packing cubes. I just started using them. I don't know why I never used them before my trip over the summer, me and my husband. But this time I put, we kind of split our trip up, and I actually flew to Tampa this summer first to visit with some of my family in Tampa. So I packed all the clothes for Tampa in one packing cube, and then, the first leg of Disney in a second packing cube. And then I knew I need to do laundry. And, so that worked really well this trip. And I utilized my stroller as a helper,
Mm-hmm.
We have, I brought the car seats because we flew to Tampa. I did the same thing last year. So I would actually stick my bags to help with consolidation going through the airport. I would I would check my luggage before we got on the plane, right? And I would stick my luggage once I picked it up from the belt. I would actually open the bag that my car seats were in, and I would stick my duffel bags into the car seat bag, zipped, close that back up, because then it's just like one big heavy bag. And then I would just stick it in the stroller. And then that way I wasn't carrying it, I was pushing it.
Mm-hmm.
And, last year Paul walked next to me and I had Francis strapped on my chest. And this year, both the kids just walked. So,
Wow.
Kind of
Good
utilizing what you have. Yeah. My uncle showed up at the airport to help me last year. And he was like, wow, I don't think you actually needed my help.
Wow. Yeah. I guess when you really plan it out and everything, you had it all down pat.
Yeah.
Which was all, dang. I tried that, the belt thing for the whatchamacallit, the car seat onto the
luggage.
Yeah. So I had the little belt that attached the car seat to the luggage, and it made things super easy. I will say the one hard thing was getting off the plane with him with the car seat, and getting it all together. And I should have done this sooner, where I should have just asked for some help sooner, because I know people would have asked. I would try to wait until the rest of the plane was cleared off and then to get off at that point. But that actually almost made me more stressed out. I should have just gotten off and asked someone near me or a flight attendant to help me either carry my suitcase or the car seat off. So, and they were, because at the end, that's what ended up happening anyway. They ended up, because they wanted to get me off the plane, so then that they could clean it and everything. So pro tip is just don't be afraid to ask for help, and because it just made so much better. And then once I got out of the gate, they literally walked me all the way down, and then we were able to pause. I could get the car seat attached to my luggage and then be on my way, and it was fine. So, but I have a 2-year-old who's very hyperactive and is Doug from Up, and he's oh, squirrel, and he just goes running off. And so I needed him in the stroller, so I couldn't necessarily do what you did and put all the stuff in there. I needed him strapped in. So
yeah. Well, and that's one of the things, right? What works for me isn't going to work for everybody. And I think that's what's so great is, you go in with the mindset of what works best for you and your kids. You can take all of the tips from other people, but you have to kind of find your own flow too.
Yeah, because even thinking that, a lot of people are why don't you just gate check the car seat and not worry about it? And I'm again, I know my kid, he's going to unbuckle himself. He's not going to stay there. So I'm hoping in a year he'll have a little bit more understanding or so. But just right now, there was no reasoning with him. And again, it was just me. So I had to be able to control him myself. And he did great in the car seat. We had no issues. It just was, the hard part was getting on the plane, letting them check that it was air approved, getting it strapped in while he's doing his own thing. I actually had really great people around me. There was this gentleman who was okay, give me a high five up here. Okay, give me a high five up here. Just entertaining him, while I got all that stuff situated. Yeah. So, which is, people are great. There are some sucky people out there, but overall, people saw that I was alone, and they were so willing to help.
Yeah,
is
that's
really,
awesome.
really nice. Yeah. Okay. So I wanted to go two different things. So next one was how any other tips and tricks you guys can think of for making it more convenient. So I know we talked about staying on property again at a monorail resort if you can.
Yep.
But if that's not in budget necessarily, what else would you guys recommend?
Rachel, I'd love to hear your opinion on, the Genie Plus. Is it more valuable possibly to you with, the kids in tow by yourself? Is it more important to you? I know I have my opinion on Genie Plus and everything, and how I go about my day with, older kids, but with a younger family, how much more important does Genie Plus, Lightning Lane, and even the virtual queue come into play when you're towing the kids solo?
I thought this trip, it was like a lifesaver, honestly. But I used it very differently, I think, than a lot of people, right? So I was not really thinking about, okay, I need to book a Genie Plus for this ride, and this ride. I asked the kids, I said, okay, what's your number one ride at this park? And that was the first Genie Plus that I made.
Cool.
And then after that, I would kind of see what was available in that area, like wherever we were. Because I was I'm by myself with my kids, so I don't want to be looking at my phone all day. And so I really just used it as okay, we just got off Peter Pan. It's a Small World was a 40-minute wait when we were there. It was long for a Small World. Or there was a Genie Plus that was active then. I was like, you guys want to do this ride? Yep. Okay, let's go on.
Cool.
So I kind of used it in that way. And then would pick, the only time I would pick something that was maybe a little bit further out and not necessarily was right where we were, was when we were sitting down to eat something. Because, strategically, if we're sitting down to eat and then there's something, Space Mountain is available and it'll probably be available for when we get done eating, even though we were eating at Be Our Guest, it didn't matter because we were eating and then we walked over and we kind of did that side of the park.
Cool.
And I've used it before, Jeff, with, when we've all gone and I felt like it really wasn't as worth it. When I went with all 4 kids, because they all liked to do different things at that point. So we were kind of splitting up anyways. And my husband didn't really want to be bothered with it. So, but I thought this time it was really nice and very helpful to be able to get done all of the rides that the kids really wanted to do.
And I'm more similar to your husband. I see the value in Genie Plus. I definitely see the value in it, especially on busy days. But, I've always thought that sometimes, we're so immersed in our phones now when we're at these parks because we have to be, right? You want to maximize your day. You're in the app. Sometimes I like to just go by the seat of my pants and see where the moment takes me. So but I understand the need for it. And I think it is an important element in planning a family vacation. And let's face it, there's a different dynamic when there's 2 of you. If you wanted to use Genie Plus, you got one parent kind of keeping the kids in check while the other one's getting that next ride ready. But, Rachel, you're by yourself this time. So it might become more difficult, even though you said it was more valuable to you this time around. It's just the dynamic changes, I think, for every family. You got to do what's right for you. But I was just curious, on how it worked for you,
Yeah, I thought it was good this trip. Now, we did not do it for Epcot. I only did it for Magic Kingdom and Hollywood Studios.
And that's another great point. There's just some parks I don't think it's needed for, and Epcot's one of them. I mean, it may change now with, the Moana, the water attraction opening and the walls coming down here soon. It could change a little bit, although I still don't think you really need it for Epcot, Animal Kingdom, Hollywood Studios, and Magic Kingdom's a different story. It's a very different story. But another pro tip of the day too, if you're deciding whether you want Genie Plus or not, get to the park first. How many times, Alyssa, we can probably count on one hand how many times they've actually sold out a Genie Plus since they've had it. It's not very often at all. 2 or 3 times maybe from what I saw online. So it's almost always going to be there for you, but get to the park first and test a couple standby lines, before you buy it. You may not need it. You know, so many families buy it at midnight because they can, and they get to the park and they have buyer's regret because it's not needed. And
Mhm.
we all know those standby times are overinflated a little bit because they want to sell
Mhm.
more Genie Plus. I mean, why would they not do that? It's a great marketing
Mhm.
aspect for them to do that. So, but
I
you
think
know,
I think too, going off Rachel, what you said, ask your kids what's the number one thing you have
yep,
to do. Make that
yep,
the priority, and if you can, go during early entry and then make those things the priority. So then
yep,
again, you don't have to spend the money on Genie Plus. So like when Trip was a year and a half old and we took him, or I took him, it was just me. I met up with a friend there, but we did early entry so that we could then go do the couple of rides in Animal Kingdom that he could do because there's so many height requirements there. So then we got those done, and then the rest of the day were the shows and the character meet and greets and seeing the animals. Nothing I needed Genie Plus for anyway.
right.
So, but like going into this one, we're trying to think in that way of what's the couple of things we know he will love, doing early entry, getting those things out of the way, and then possibly saving the money on Genie Plus and just kind of going wherever he leads us at that point. Because even though he's been so many times, this is the first time he's aware of what Disney World is and like what it is. And so I think he's going to actually have an opinion on what to do and everything. And we don't want to be confined to Genie Plus times and everything. We just kind of want to do it however he leads us to do it.
Right. Yeah. So, and that's what we did a mix. You know, so if it was something that was right there and it had a Genie Plus time and it was worth it, we did it.
Yeah. I like the idea too that you're not like because I think that's a downside of Genie Plus is like going all around the park several times. And so if you are kind of focused, like you said, like do all the Fantasyland stuff, which a lot of times those Genie Plus return times are pretty soon, then maybe moving on to another area or something like that. So
yeah.
I think that was a good idea. You're making me think my trip that I took him last year, the only park we did was Animal Kingdom, and then we had 3 resort days because that was the goal. Just one park day and then enjoying the pool, enjoying like Disney Springs, like that kind of stuff. So, and I
That
feel
sounds like heaven.
It was fantastic. And it was even better, honestly, because he ended up with an ear infection while we were on vacation. And that was a whole to do. So I needed that rest day because that
poor
was,
guy.
Yeah. And so luckily, knock on wood, that hasn't happened in a while. So, but yeah, I don't know. Like that's not a normal Disney trip for people, but I think it like that was intentional on my part because I didn't know how it was going to go.
Well, I don't know. As you get older and your kids get older and you're snowbirding in the winter, I kind of like those resort days more than the park days sometimes.
Yeah, we always build in at least one. Usually our travel there, travel home, and then one kind of in the middle. Just because, and it's, you know, especially if you're staying on property, there's so much to do on property. You know, one of my favorite things when we go at Christmas time is I love just going to all the resorts and seeing the Christmas trees and the Christmas decorations. They're just beautiful. You know, so I think we did 2 resort mornings this last trip. One, the morning of the Halloween party. And then one, we're DVC members too. So we did the DVC Moonlight Magic at Typhoon Lagoon in August. So that was another day we just hung at the resort, you know, did the pool, did the arcade.
Sounds great.
It was awesome. It was. I sat with my legs in the pool and read my book.
Oh, so good.
For like 4 hours because my kid, they were just playing in the pool. So
that sounds so good. And that's kind of our hope. Our next trip we did half and half. So we're doing 3 park days, 3 resort days. And so like one of the resort days, like we're gonna go do Chef Mickey's, and then another resort day we're doing the 5K and 10K wine and dine. So the other resort day we have to go to like ESPN to go do all of our stuff, right? So but then like with intention, like doing the 5K and then no parks after, just taking a break, just chilling, going to the pool, that kind of stuff. So I'm looking forward to that like a lot. So I feel like always, and I was telling my husband this today, our like vacations are always go, go, go. So like Rachel, you and I are going to be on the Wish next week, and like I'm ecstatic about it, but I know it's going to be jam-packed full of stuff that we're going to be doing the whole time. And like I love that kind of stuff, but sometimes I need to like step back and not be so type A and gotta fit everything in and just like relax, especially as I get older. I can't go and like do 4 parks in a day anymore or anything. So yeah, which I'm really
Rachel, what's your DVC home resort?
Grand Floridian.
All right, we're Boardwalk.
Oh, nice. I can't wait to stay there. I want to go. We just actually booked Beach Club because we're going with friends for one of the races in April, the springtime surprise. And they wanted to stay there. So we're going to do Beach Club for that. But I really want to stay at Boardwalk because their new rooms are so nice.
Yeah. I probably aged myself when I said Boardwalk. So I've been a member for a little while, but it's definitely my heart. You know, I love that whole area with the Beach Club, Yacht Club, Boardwalk, you know, walking to Epcot, you know, walking to Hollywood Studios. That was one of the main reasons we picked that area.
That was a good one.
Yeah. Well, in the restaurants, you know, Alyssa, when you were mentioning, you know, going to Chef Mickey's, like the Boardwalk area has so many nice restaurants on it too, character dining, you know, but all of the resorts, the dining at them, you know, to do different resort dining options with the kids. My kids love it because they're like, oh, I want to stay at this resort because of this. You know, so we ate at Cape May Cafe in August, and my kids were like, oh, mommy, I want to go to this pool. So like, actually, we might be staying here. It's like my 7-month mark hasn't come up yet, but hopefully we'll be here in April. So
nice.
I think the kids just think it's fun, and it's more, at least for me, it was relaxing to just kind of walk around the resorts with the kids.
So how does dining change as a single parent with the kids, you know, when on these trips, Rachel, for you? Does anything change from when you and your husband are there with the kids from dining? Do you share platters? Do you know, is it, because that's, you know, a really good point to bring up, because dining is such a big part of Disney World, right? It's enormous. I mean, we as agents know that. We plan our family's trips 60 days out, you know. So what changes for you, you know, when it comes to dining when you're solo?
Not too much. We typically, even when we travel as a family, try and just limit it to one sit down meal a day. You know, like Alyssa mentioned earlier, it's too much, especially when you're traveling by yourself, to have everything over planned, because then you're on a time commitment. And the flexibility of just having, you know, breakfast or just having lunch just makes the rest of the day so much more fluid and relaxed, and you're not stressed about getting from point A to point B. So I stuck with that with our kids. You know, we did one sit down meal a day. A lot of them we did do character meals because my kids are still really into character meals. We did Space 220 this trip, which was cool. They really liked that. And then we would just do quick service or snacks. My kids are little snack people. Pro tip, fill up your popcorn bucket before you leave the park at night, before they close, because my kids will eat popcorn for breakfast in the morning.
Awesome.
That's an awesome pro tip.
I agree with you 1,000%. Don't over plan the sit down dining. You know, for one, it takes a lot of time away from your fun in the park. I actually just completed a family. They had 3 meals a day sit down.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, isn't that crazy? But that was, they didn't have any kids. It was just a couple, you know, that was going.
Sure.
Just a couple that was going, but that's what they wanted to do. They wanted to sit down for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So I have to pat myself on the back. I got everything they wanted with 3 meals a day.
Good for you.
But I don't know. I found lately the dining's been a little bit easier. I don't know.
It has been.
Just a little bit. I mean, at first that new system was a little bit
glitchy.
Glitchy, wonky, but for some reason it seems to be a little bit easier getting things right now. But I know they are lighter. The parks are a little bit lighter right now. So
but that tells you that it's going to be lighter in the next couple of months too, since we're already booking dining 60 days out. I will say I have broken my rule as of yesterday about the one meal a day but I have a valid, I feel like reasonable excuse for it. So we're doing one day, we're going to start at Magic Kingdom and we're doing Crystal Palace because my son is obsessed with Winnie the Pooh. And I got a pre-park opening reservation. So the park doesn't open till 9 and I got 8:10.
Nice.
So,
Yeah, you're not wasting park time.
Exactly. So I did that, and with the expectation of then we'll just do Magic Kingdom how we see fit until he gets tired and we need to go back for that nap. And then I got a Fantasmic dining package.
Nice.
Awesome.
But again, with the mindset of I know if we need to get to Fantasmic an hour and a half early to get a good spot, he's going to be nuts and he's going to be too antsy and not want to sit for the show. But now with the package, we get the reserved preferred seating. And we could go essentially like 30 minutes before and still get a good spot and like not have to stress about it. So that was very strategic in that way. So normally I wouldn't do 2 sit downs in a day, and we don't have any other day planned like that. But I felt like that was actually going to save all of our sanity and like actually make it easier.
That is definitely a way to do it though. If you're going to do a breakfast, before the park opens, because all the parks, and another pro tip that you may not know, people, is that a lot of these places that do breakfast in the parks, whether it's Crystal Palace or Tusker House or wherever, you can get in the park up to an hour and a half to 2 hours early for that breakfast.
Yeah.
As long as you have that dining reservation and not really kill any park time.
Yeah. And that day before too, we're going to be in Jacksonville visiting my brother. We're going to drive down to Orlando, have a leisurely evening. We can all go to bed early. So like getting up for a reservation that early is not going to be stressful.
Yeah.
So like, again, had I already done maybe a park day before, I might have reconsidered it just to give us a buffer in case we're slow to get up in the morning. But like that, I feel like is going to work perfect. And then again, tire him out so we can go rest midday.
Nap, yeah.
And then go to Hollywood Studios that night. So that's the thought anyway.
Nice.
So try to be, and like, I'll tell people, I haven't had anyone that wanted 3 dining reservations in a row, but I did have someone that wanted a noon lunch. And then again, their must have dinner, there was only like a $4.50. And I'm like, you're still going to be stuffed, I feel like, from lunch. And then you only have like an hour, like 2 hours in between to do rides and stuff. And then you're dragging your kids then to like another like sit down meal. So yeah, I agree. It takes up a lot of time and you have to be prepared and like know that it's going to take up.
And it, and it's expensive. It can blow your budget out doing 3 sit down dinings, whether you're doing a solo trip with kids or a full family trip. It's just a lot. It's a lot. But hey, that's what we are here to do, is give our families what they want.
Woo-woo. Which we should probably plug in there. There was a pretty big promotion today. Like, I don't know how much you guys had to work on getting that applied for some people, but like there were lots and lots of savings that happened today.
Yeah, I got a couple.
I think I had 3.
Yeah.
So,
and they have them for Princess Race weekend, which I was shocked.
Yeah.
I was so surprised. I had 2 people that are going to be there for Princess Race weekend. I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I got them. I saved them. One of them decided to upgrade to a preferred room. Nice. Which was still less than their original standard room price, but it was,
which is another indication, Alyssa, that they're going to be lighter, those time frames. If they're offering that kind of significance on a race weekend and some of these other holidays and their small holidays, they're hurting a little bit right now, I think, for people.
Yeah. So thinking of that, like we stay on top of those things. And again, like at first I didn't even think like Princess Weekend was included in it. And I went back and like double checked all my Princess Weekend clients, and they did. And like sometimes the savings weren't huge, like if they were doing just the weekend, but it was still savings. So it was like $70. Right. I was like, that almost pays their entire 5K like admission fee. So like stuff like that. So, and then others, it was like several $100s where they could get that upgrade and not have to pay extra and still save money. Mm-hmm. So I feel like I don't know about you guys, but none of my clients had even heard that the promo had dropped until I told them I saved the money.
Nope.
Yeah. A lot of them don't. They're oblivious to it. That's what they have us for.
Exactly.
That made the 3rd promotion right now for Disney World, because there's this one, then there's the stay day or stay, play, and dine, and then there's the Visa card member one for 35% off.
Yeah.
Yep.
In addition to the Florida ones and the annual pass ones too, which are always there.
Yeah. So speaking of Rachel, if anyone wants to contact you to book a vacation, how would they contact you?
So you can send me an email. My email is Rachel. I spell my name a little bit different. It's RACHAEL at momentsofmagictravel.com. And then I'm also on Facebook and Instagram. And my handle is at McHugh, MCHUGH Magic. So McHugh Magic.
Awesome.
Perfect. All right. I think we are pretty much wrapped up for today. Can you guys think of anything else? I didn't see any comments come through. So
Makes me want to go to Disney now solo with my kids, but my kids are in school.
I could be your kid. You can take me.
we did decide that we are going to go for a long weekend in December before Christmas. So we are going then. That's going to be what we replace the cruise with. I'm not going to be with you guys next week. First conference I've missed in like 5 years. So but we're going to do Disney World and use those dollars instead for the first week of December.
Well, we'll miss you. But
one more thing, Alyssa, that I want to tell, because I had a couple people ask me this, is the bathroom. So the bathrooms at Disney. How do you do the bathroom with a bunch of kids when you have to go and they have to go?
Oh.
So I let them go, and then I make them stand right outside my stall so I can see their feet.
Oh, good point. Okay.
That was just another like random thing that I had people asking me. They're like, what did you do when everyone had to go to the bathroom?
So here's the thing. So when I took Trip when he was a year and a half, like he was still wobbly on his feet, and I just honestly didn't want him touching everything. So I rolled the whole stroller in and waited for the handicap bathroom so I could just push him in there and just take him in with me.
Yeah.
So, and I feel like at least while he's still young, I now that he can walk, he's a little more stable and stuff. He'll just come in with me and stuff. But I feel like the U.S. needs to adapt more of those like single parent friendly restrooms where they have like a little seat you put your kid in. Like, have you guys seen that? Like,
they like strap them in.
Yeah, we need more of that. Like,
family restrooms, and you see a lot more of those overseas.
Right.
When we done a lot of our Adventures by Disney trips, they have those family bathrooms where there's actually like, it's almost like a jump seat in a plane where it comes down off the wall and you can strap your kid in there while you're taking care of the business.
Yeah. So that was such a perfect point that I didn't really think of, Rachel. So that was good. Yeah, I appreciate that Disney has changing tables in the men's restrooms, because when I am with my husband and there's always a line in the ladies' restroom, he will then go take him, like, because there's almost never a line in the men's restroom. So I appreciate that Disney does that and considers that. And we didn't even mention the baby care centers too. So like for a single parent, if you're overwhelmed, can't manage all that, like go to the baby care center, get an AC break. They have changing tables and areas to rest or let the kid nap and all that kind of stuff too. And every park has one.
Yep.
So yeah. So that could
they have nursing rooms.
Yeah.
If you're nursing, places to heat up bottles and clean them.
Yeah.
So, and the aquarium at Epcot where the sea or the Nemo and Friends lets out in, that's a great AC break there for parents if you're by yourself.
True. We didn't even go over that. We probably could have come up with a whole list of like, where are those good breaks for parents? Just
there's a future call right there, Alyssa.
True.
All the best places to nap or hobo nap and take breaks in the AC.
That's gonna be the title of that podcast.
Hobo napping at Disney.
That should be done live at Disney.
Yep, I've got plenty of pictures of me napping in places. So
that's awesome. Okay, well, so to give a heads up on what we got coming up next week, we usually do every other week, but because we're going to be on the John, myself, and Rachel, we're going to be on the Wish. So next week, I'm recording with fellow agents Leah and Amy. We're going to be talking about doing the parks when you're expecting. So what that's like, trying to manage when you're being pregnant and maybe also managing kids and doing all that. And then to be determined on the date, then John and I are going to be recapping the Wish and everything with that. So Jeff, I think it'll be good for you to be like our guinea pig of asking, like, what was this like? What was that like? And all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Send me the link and I'll be the distant one.
Yeah. So I think so that's all what is coming up. And then again, our schedule might get off a little bit just because of the Wish and the conference and stuff, but we'll get back on track pretty quickly. So yeah.
All right.
You want to round us out, Jeff?
Yes. Rachel, thank you for joining us. It's been
Thank
been
you.
fun talking Disney. On behalf of Alyssa and Rachel, Jeff Armbruster with Moments of Magic Travel, all of us in the Universal Magic Podcast, and we'll see you guys soon. Take care, guys.